10x your service design offering with Smaply. Take 20% off any order with This Is HCD 20 off. Let's superpower you and your design team's potential. Sign up at smaply.app. Enjoy the episode from your friends at Smaply, helping support This Is HCD podcast.
Hey folks, and welcome back to another episode of This Is HCD. My name is Gerry Scullion, and today I'm going to be your host as always. Now, a little bit of a different format to the introduction. This episode is going to be with Myriam Hadnes. Now, Myriam Hadnes is a facilitator, podcaster, and soon-to-be author of the new book, Unprofessionalism. Now, it's a deeply human connection and conversation we have. I met Myriam when I was in Amsterdam working a couple of times last year. And we got to hang out because I was a subscriber to her newsletter. And I thought it was kind of a nice thing to do when I'm in somebody's city to email saying, hey, this is what I do. Maybe we could have a coffee. Coffee turned into a friendship. Win-win. So we talk about burnout, boundary setting, quitting things no longer service, and why being professional might be getting in the way of being ourselves. Now, there's 3 key takeaways I want you to take from this episode. It's letting go of space. Myriam shut down a global community and deleted 300 podcast pages on their website to simplify her life and business. And the result, more clarity, less stress, and no drops in leads, which is really interesting for me because I'm still of the mindset that, look, if I've created something, I like to have it available for people to listen to and engage with. So it was a really refreshing take on something that maybe I've challenged myself on a little bit more. You talk about radical honesty, okay, something which has come up in my own life many, many times, and really talking about it as being a key leadership skill. We dive into how unfiltered communication with care and intention can transform conflict in teams. We talk about unprofessionalism in a large context in this podcast. It is a movement I'm learning more and more about on LinkedIn and beyond. And what if looking polished, perfect, and in control is actually getting in the way of doing great work? So that is a really the kind of the anchor of this entire conversation. Fantastic. Myriam's a really different person, we generally have on the podcast, but they're absolutely fantastic. I love hanging out with them, and they bring a different perspective to what we do here at This Is HCD. We talk about podcasting as a creative outlet, designing lean service businesses, and riding e-cargo bikes as well. That was a new thing in my life. It's a fantastic episode. I know you're going to enjoy it. Before we jump into that episode, I'd like you to remind you to like and subscribe to this podcast. It really helps me build the network, builds the visibility of the podcast and all the hard work that I do to really get it out there. If you really like what we do, please do leave a review on Spotify or Apple. It really helps the algorithms and shine a little bit more light on us. And if you are just getting started, or even if you're in an organization that's looking to improve how they're delivering services, why not just start up and take my free 5-day email course on how to kickstart a human-centered service design revolution in your organization. The link's in the description. It's on the website. You'll see it when you log on. It's a great episode. Let's jump straight in. Are you coming from Amsterdam today?
I am.
Yeah.
I am calling in from Amsterdam, and it's a sunny day.
Yes. So look, tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from and what you do, Myriam.
I was born and raised in Germany, Frankfurt.
Ah.
And ended up now in Amsterdam. I lived in Vietnam for 2.5 years, in Luxembourg for 2.5 years, and in Paris, France for a year. No, that's not true, for almost 2.
Yeah.
I call myself a recovering academic. I did a PhD in behavioral economics a lifetime ago, and worked at universities, higher education, long time before I quit my job and started my own thing. I'm a podcaster. I host the Workshops Work podcast, and I loved our episode. So much wisdom you shared.
Absolutely.
And now I run a boutique training agency. We run workshops for large corporates in up to 15 different languages on topics related to leadership and facilitation, like psychological safety, feedback culture.
Love it.
Yeah.
I mean, here's a good example, folks, of what podcasting can bring to you. Like I think I was on your newsletter, and I don't know how I managed it because I don't subscribe to many newsletters. Or maybe I saw something, but either way, I reached out when I was working in Amsterdam with a client, and I said, "Hey, I'm in Amsterdam and I read your newsletter and I'm a podcaster too. Do you want to come and have a coffee with me?" And he went, "Yeah." So we had a coffee, and I was like, "Hey, this is kind of cool." And we exchanged notes on what we were working on and what we were doing. And yeah, we just hung out, went for dinner a couple of times, I think, in Amsterdam. And generally speaking, this is when you put your work out there and you exchange value, where these conversations and relationships can take you, which I still think is kind of remarkable. How I am sitting, probably somewhere like 50 feet or 100 feet from my bed, and I'm projecting out from this destination, and we've managed to connect, and here we are today. So tell us about Workshops Work, because when we first met, you'd lots going on. You had an ecosystem very similar to what I still have, and we were discussing beforehand that you've kind of gone through this renaissance, you've gone through this regrowth period.
Yeah.
And I'd love to chat a little bit more around that from a business perspective, on where you see where you've come from, and how you tackle that kind of change.
Yeah. So until December last year, I was managing a global online community of facilitators, never done before, and managed this agency that I'm still running, and have a weekly podcast, long form, similar to yours. So every week a 90 minutes conversation goes live.
Wow.
And I realized that it was just too much. I was constantly rushing through things, constantly on the edge. And I think it was, and I turned 42, the magic number.
42 or 40?
42.
42.
And realized that that's not sustainable. That's not what I want.
Yeah.
So I took the difficult decision to close the community, and everything related, and to boil down, basically to increase the heat so that everything boils down to the essence. What is it that brings me joy? What is it that brings me money?
Yeah.
And what is it that I actually need in order to live?
And thrive.
And we spoke about that very briefly, or you spoke about it before hitting record. Times are so stressful. I mean, what's happening in the world is just beyond, I think, anyone's understanding. And I realized that it's now that I want to focus on my well-being.
Yeah.
And doing things that bring me joy, my relationship, and minimize work.
Yeah. I mean, like, I echo everything that you're saying there at the moment. Like, I made a connection with you, a connection to you from a number of people. I think when we spoke, I was like, hey, this could be a nice connection for you to have. And one of them was Mike Parker, who's been on the podcast before. And I want to speak a little bit more around Mike. He's a really special person, and he's connected me to a number of other people who, friendships and all that kind of stuff come through this way, which again is another example of, when you project and you put your stuff out there in the world, you connect with these people, and it's pretty amazing. Tell us about the journey, if you're open to talking about this, with Mike and the liminal coaching stuff that you did together.
You connected me to Mike, and I interviewed him on the podcast. And I think I interviewed him on a Tuesday or Wednesday. And on the Monday, I just started smoking again.
Oh, really?
And so I call myself a smoker, and at the moment I don't smoke. So I'm a dry smoker. How do you call that?
Yeah.
I think it's one of those addictions that you can never, I think,
never shake.
And I started when I was 13.
Right. Very young.
Yeah. And I was sharing with Mike that I just started smoking again because of stress, because I always start when I hit the point where I cannot self-regulate anymore. And then it seems like the least of all the harms.
Yeah.
And after our recording, he offered me a free coaching session.
Yeah.
It's a liminal coaching. So calls it guided relaxation.
That's right. I've done it with them. Yeah.
Um,
it's lovely.
And the funny thing is, I remember I sat on the balcony smoking a cigarette before going on the call. And I was talking to myself saying, I hope he doesn't ask me to quit smoking because I don't have the capacity right now.
That's mad, isn't it?
And after the call, I smoked one more cigarette thinking, why am I actually doing this?
Yeah,
and that was the last cigarette I smoked.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And he didn't talk to me about smoking.
Really? That's interesting.
We didn't. Yeah.
It kind of puts you into a state of, well, liminality is what Mike would probably say about it. But I've been meaning to pick it up again with Mike, to be honest. Like in the last year or so, I haven't really, I haven't spoken to him in since we probably connected, both of you together. My life has been quite busy, and there's lots of stuff going on in terms of managing life and work and all of the stuff that goes with that. So I've got a young family. For anyone who knows a little bit about my background, I live in Dublin, but it's very hard to juggle everything together at the same time. Talk to me about, the repositioning of your brand, okay? Because a lot of people might struggle to do what you did, and that is delete like 300 odd pages on a website. And it seems like, why would someone struggle with that? Maybe we talk about that process, and where it all started. Where did the journey begin?
I think when I'm very honest to myself, I already realized that I lost a little bit the mojo for the community work a year earlier, but I didn't dare to let go because there were 100 people from 40 countries, part of the community. It was profitable in a way that it was too much to die and too little to live.
Yeah, I get it.
So I paid for a community manager. I paid for a virtual assistant. I paid for, I think 1,000 euros per month for software, for the community platform, for all the automations that I included. I had an assistant for social media marketing. So there's this huge beast. And every time I received an email, Myriam, the link is broken. Myriam, how do I do that? Where do I post that? I started cringing every time. And then I realized, okay, I'm not in a good place if I'm start to resent my community members because I built that. I'm serving them and I built that. So it's my responsibility. And still there was this voice in my head that I cannot do that. Cannot just stop because I owe them something. I have this responsibility. Until I worked on my boundaries last year. This was my big project last year. I built a boundary tower.
Ah, okay. I don't even know.
So I started down here. My girlfriend.
Bring it a bit closer. Can we have a look, or is it too personal? No.
So I started it. I just drew a tower with different steps. And every time that I set a boundary, I colored the step.
So what is a step then? Tell us.
A step would be someone saying, I would like, or can you do this for me? And I would say no.
So you put a boundary around it. So you identify with yourself. That's something that you're not comfortable doing.
Yeah. A client who wants a last-minute call after hour said, "No, I don't work that late. We can speak tomorrow." Someone who wants just a little coffee chat to pick my brain. No, don't do coffee chats.
So you
Unless you're
just don't
Gerry.
do that full stop, or is it you do that with certain people? Where does that sit? Because that's the kind of tricky area.
And that's a beautiful thing. So my 99% of the cases is no full stop. And I became rigorous with, I guess you have the same, how many people are reaching out to place other people or themselves on my podcast?
Yeah, all the time.
Yeah. I have 5 per day.
Yeah.
It's massive. And I became very good in just saying no without any reason.
Yeah.
And then there's sometimes my gut tells me, I'm intrigued. And then it becomes a maybe, and sometimes it becomes a hell yeah. Let's do that. Like when I received your message.
Yeah.
And I think it's very difficult to put my finger on it, but I think what it boils down to, it's if someone reaches out with authenticity, curiosity.
Yeah, it's it's hard to let go of the guilt, and that's usually, it's not the saying no, it's the stuff that follows after it that I struggle with.
And I broke up with the guilt. I don't do that anymore. And
I don't want this to turn into a Mel Robbins podcast where people are like, oh my God, you just need to say no and just live with the decision. How do you do that? Because I'm 45 and I spent my entire life feeling guilty for eating chocolate during Lent and stuff. So,
and
how do you get around
yes,
that?
and it's not a 3 steps program.
Yeah.
So my boundary tower was 23 steps. So, and every time I celebrated, and I realized that it feels easier at each time. So I think it's like a muscle practicing.
Yeah.
Then I received such beautiful response honestly saying that I receive a lot of requests, and I learned to prioritize my own projects, and that's why it's no. And then they come back and say, "Thank you for this clear boundary. I really appreciate that."
Yeah.
To role model that it's possible.
Yeah.
I took a workshop on radical honesty.
Okay.
Which was amazing and really a game changer for me.
What does that mean, radical honesty?
I just interviewed them on the podcast. I think they're out the week after. It means that you don't try to sugarcoat, but you own your decision and you speak from your heart. So what often happens is that we feel an itch or we feel triggered, and then we don't want to make a big deal out of it. So we carry it around, and suddenly we become these passive-aggressive bitches.
Okay.
Sorry, my French.
No,
So, for instance, I was sitting on the balcony with my girlfriend, and end of day, and she was sharing about her day, and I listened, it was cool. And then it was kind of my turn, so I started sharing about my day. And she said, "Oh yeah, this reminds me of," and suddenly it was all about her again. Which is a judgment as I say that. So I could feel this itch, I wasn't done yet. And in the past, I would have just ignored it because I don't want to make a thing out of it. And she wants to share, and that's okay. And she also needs the space. And in this instance, I said, May I share? We call it Whipple. May I share a Whipple? Like, sure. I was sharing about my day, and I wasn't done yet, and I would have liked to share more. And I noticed that it feels to me as if you're making it all about yourself again. It's like, "Oh, I'm sorry. Sure, I can see that. Please continue." And so I continued my story. If I hadn't said that, I would have pretended as if I listened, not yeah, but not having committed to it. And then 2 days later might have exploded because of something else.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that a lot of us can probably take something from. How did your partner process that request? Because if it's something that's straight out of the gate and something quite new, it can be a bit of a knee-jerk reaction because those behaviors have been set.
Yeah. So we took the workshop together, so that helps. And we talked about, so it's our agreement that we will mention to each other whenever we feel a ripple. And then it's very easy to own it. Because me feeling, and we can be very, very direct, saying, it feels to me as I said, as if you're making it all about yourself. It feels to me like that.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, that's interesting that it feels to you like that. So apparently there's an underlying need for me that is not met. And she doesn't take it as an insult because it has very little to do with her and lots to do with me.
So if you keep on identifying the fact that it's less about them and it's more about you, what do you do in that instance?
Usually at the moment we speak it out, it's already good, which is very interesting. I think when we feel hurt or when I feel a need is not met, when I can voice it, articulate it, usually it already calms down my nervous system. Because then I also know, okay, so what is it that I need? I need to be heard. I need to talk. Maybe I need a break. Maybe I need to go outside and just walk around the block.
Yeah. So is that something that you've brought back into your own practice as a practitioner? And how has that sort of managed to manifest itself into your training programs?
I became radically honest with almost everyone around me. In a kind way, I would say.
Yeah.
In a recent workshop, the workshop was about conflict, how to avoid and resolve conflict. And we had a group of 30 managers, and they were sitting there waiting for the 3 steps checklist on how to avoid conflict. And I'm like, you won't get the checklist from me. And I don't believe in the 3 steps. So, okay, who amongst you has arrived at work in a bad mood? Hands up. Okay, all the hands went up. Okay, so what happened? So maybe you didn't smile. Okay, who forgot to greet someone in the corridor? Who became very short in their responses? Who wrote maybe very short emails? Oh, okay, now think about all the moments where you meet someone in the corridor and they don't smile at you and they don't greet and they send you short responses to your emails. Oh, maybe they just had a bad day. So how do we reply to the emails that are a bit too short and the not smiling face? Oh, maybe we become a little bit aggressive because we take it personally. Oh. So one-step process to avoid conflict, acknowledge we are all human.
Yeah. You never know what's going on in someone's head.
So I think to just voice it and to say, okay, that's what's going on for all of us. Let's be honest to ourselves first. Goes a big way. Yeah.
So what does it look like at the moment? Because you've changed your business. You've culled, and I use the word culled very carefully there, because you've culled a lot of content, a lot of landing pages, and if anyone who knows anything about the web and how kind of traffic and everything is attracted, like you've got all of these pages that are highly indexed by Google, and it brings traffic, and traffic usually equates to business leads and so forth. You've culled a lot of stuff there at the moment. Now you've got a lean website. What did you notice, apart from the fact that you went, okay, it's easier to manage, okay, which is an absolutely huge thing as well. What did you notice as regards the business when you made that decision? Did you notice a drop-off in traffic and business leads, or what did it look like?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Nothing. I used to give people access to the repository of over 300 one-page summaries of each, well, one for each podcast episode for free.
Yeah.
I stopped there.
Yeah.
And why would I do that? They can buy the ebook for $10.
Yeah.
2 people reached out and said, I was looking for the one-page summary, couldn't find it. And I'm like, well, I'm selling them now. Here's the link to buy it, and here's the one-page summary that you were looking for. Happened twice. And then it's easy to be generous.
Yeah.
I noticed that I do believe that what gets our attention grows. And if our attention is at too many spots at the same time, it doesn't grow. And I also noticed that we are often not clear. So we're living in a time, for the first time in history, we have more information than we need, right? So the supply of information is higher than the demand. So I think it's very important to know whom we are talking to. I'm no longer building a community, so I'm no longer doing B2C. None of the 4,000, 3,000 people who are on my newsletter are my potential clients.
Right. Yeah.
And that's okay. So I stopped trying to sell to them. Okay, I'm delivering the podcast to them. If they find value, at some point they might refer me to one of the multinationals that I'm actually trying to sell to.
Yeah.
I think what I observe on LinkedIn and all these social media is many facilitators are producing a lot of content and sharing content about facilitation. And they get all the likes and all the comments from fellow facilitators, which feels beautiful for our ego. Yeah. But we are not speaking to our clients. We are speaking to our competitors.
Yeah.
And I think it felt good to come so lean, because I was like, if I'm very honest, I need one person to listen to my podcast. I don't need 1,000. I need one. And this one person is in charge of the global learning and development program. And they need the workshop in Vietnamese and in Mandarin and in Portuguese and in English.
Yeah.
They need to hire me. And all the rest, it's nice to have. That's my contribution to the world.
So let's talk about the training stuff. The training stuff, like that's realignment and that kind of restrictions that you've put on yourself as a creator to try and attract the right customer is something that my business coach has been talking to me about for a long time as well. Like, if you're creating a podcast that's primarily being listened to people who aren't your customer, it doesn't really make sense. It doesn't really align to that whole kind of lean mindset of like, actually, no, we're doing this, we're trying to get people to purchase something. What did you do? Like, why would you continue to do your podcast in that instance?
Yeah. I asked myself the same question.
Good.
Yeah. And I think the different layers to it. I would be curious of your perception. One is it true that my podcast in the past did bring me clients?
Yeah.
So when I started off as a freelancer, I did have the team leaders who would call me and say, okay, I need you as a workshop facilitator. Great. I did get the referral. People would listen to the podcast, know me, and then refer me to these multinationals who are looking for someone like me.
Yeah.
So there's this, I think with the podcast, especially if we're having published so many episodes like you and me, there's general reputation that we've been growing. And it's an opportunity for people to get to know us, which is very difficult otherwise because we don't have a copy speak. This is 100% us, right?
Yeah.
There's no shortcut. There's no hiding. And I think it's a beautiful opportunity to show the real us.
Yeah.
And we are growing our fan bases, and we don't know to whom they are connected. As you as you opened this podcast, right?
Yeah.
It's beautiful to see how the referral, the network, we're in their ears. Something happens that we cannot control.
Mm-hmm.
And last, and that's the real answer to your question. Sorry, I'm going to so many tangents.
Really
So the last one is that I'm learning so much.
Yeah.
I'm learning so much from my guests, and I love speaking to facilitators. I think they're great people.
That's true. I mean, like all of the above. But there's something really rewarding for creating's sake and creating something new. That's what I find. Like it's an expression. It's some people, when I was younger, I used to watercolor. That was my thing. Like when I was, early teens, I was watercolorist up until I was 19, and I was just had to do it. Like it was like a habit. Podcasting is kind of like that for me. I'll admit, I'm not every day I want to do podcast, but I find like I feel better after it. I've created something that wasn't there before. So it's the one kind of exception that I would make towards my business processes. And it's interesting to see those kind of perspectives to you as well.
What if it was just a hobby? So what if we just relabel it?
You can call it a hobby if you want. Like I don't have any objectives. I used to like measure and monitor and all that stuff, but I think I said that to you after a while. Like as long as I know that I get the odd email here and there that people are listening, that's fine by me. I mean, I'm not doing it expecting to, give Joe Rogan, who's not someone I really respect, but he's the biggest podcaster in the world, to give Joe Rogan a run for their money. We're in totally different worlds. Like a lot of the time there's, a subsection of people who are interested in this kind of content that I create and that you create. We're kind of like in similar worlds, but different worlds in some ways. But like I think generally speaking, it does bring a lot of trust and a lot of clarity when people understand what kind of person you are. It gives your personality to your brand as well, which is very powerful. It's a very nice way of just putting your toe in the water just to see if you know your stuff as well. If they listen to one podcast, can you go, yeah, okay, look. Not a waffler, so to speak, as we'd say in Dublin.
Yeah. Have you thought of stopping your podcast?
I did for a while. What was that? Collective gasps. I did for a while. Maybe about 2 years ago, I was like, okay, well, why am I doing this? Because it does take an absolutely mountain to make it happen continuously. And just to give you a bit of background on some of the logistical side of things, it became so like you. There's 3 other people that are involved in making it get out there. Stef, who is probably not listening because they're just had their 3rd baby, was working with me and is on maternity leave. And absolutely loves Stef. Stef took all of the pressure off. And then when Stef had her baby, I was like, okay, now I'm either going to get somebody else, and we got somebody else to take over. And then they left, and I was like, okay. And then I asked my best friend from school, who was just like interested in podcasting. He took over for a couple of weeks, and then he was like, oh, this is just so kind of, I don't want to do this anymore. And I was like, he left. And then I was like, actually, do you know what? I wonder, is there anything that I could do to streamline these processes? Because this stuff is quite monotonous when you're dealing with. There's lots of platforms that you have to engage with and sync. And I heard this great guy called Vitaly, who has now sort of automated a lot of the processes. And I just get a Google sheet and I hit approved, and it syncs like magic out onto the social networks. And I only have to do one extra step. So it took it from about 2 hours to maybe about 15 minutes now, and it's much more manageable. So I did think about stopping it, but then I actually took a service design approach. I mapped the entire experience and looked at all the steps that were involved and seen where we could streamline some of these pieces. But yeah, to answer your question, I have, because it was taking an absolutely enormous amount of time. and I want to try and become a little bit more kind of aware of where I'm spending my time to make sure that I'm either making money or I'm, getting into a new hobby with intent. That's what I mean.
Yes. Yeah, that's the most important.
With intent. So you've gone through all this process. We've gone over the whole kind of like you've cut things back. Nothing really has changed. You're targeting, learning clients. You mentioned something there that was really interesting in terms of lots of other delivery and languages that you're delivering your training through. That might be kind of unusual for some people listening because there's only one Myriam here. Do you speak 11 or 12 other languages, or how do you do this?
I have a network of associates. So the beauty of having built an international community of facilitators was that I saw them facilitate. And over 4 years, we built this culture based on trust, of shared beliefs, and understanding of what facilitation actually means to us.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have, I now have a group of associates, and together we cover all these questions, all these languages.
Nice.
So if the client needs a workshop in any of the languages,
you're able to do it.
And I have, I learned a lot about automation and lean project management. So it's all connected. The client books a workshop through a Calendly link. It goes into our shared calendars. The facilitators state whether they're available. Then I do the allocation.
Yeah. So what does that look like in terms of the they take the call if it's in Mele, for argument's sake, and if they're not able to take it, or how do you work around that?
Hasn't happened yet. I usually have for the major languages I have three associates.
So for people listening, what languages are you doing? What are you available for?
We do Mandarin, Vietnamese, Korean, Japanese, Portuguese, Spanish, Italian, French, German, English.
Then you can do the German one.
Yeah. I can even do the French.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. How many languages do you speak? 3?
Yeah.
Wow. That's
I facilitate in 3 languages, yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive. I know a couple of people, like Adam Lawrence does. He's got a couple of languages up his sleeve as well. I'm always very jealous of that. So that's pretty impressive. So for people listening and they're looking to learn more around Myriam's work, they can go to workshops.work. And there's a whole kind of series of stuff up there that you can still connect with Myriam on, especially if you're looking for courses about facilitation. Is that right?
I stopped that too.
You stopped that as well. So what courses are
no
you?
More B2C.
Yeah, but I'm saying if there's clients out there listening, so the client can engage with facilitation workshops.
And so I really do. And even the courses, if they want to build a facilitation academy, we do that.
Okay, for your own.
We help them to upskill their people to have an academy where they can learn facilitation, sure. But the one-off things, the off-the-shelves things, no.
No, you don't do that. So personalized coaching for facilitators and leaders. So there's people out there. I still do coaching. I've kind of I have a boundary on that one as well. Actually, that's a new thing. You okay? You're coughing. It's the residual smoker's cough. You do so you do offer coaching for people who are looking to learn and looking for an intense way to get up to speed as quickly as possible with you, is it? You've got that available on your website still. Yeah. But generally speaking, for the clients out there who are listening and looking at Myriam's website, what other courses, you mentioned about conflict management, what other courses and themes are you able to deliver?
Everything around psychological safety.
Okay.
How to create it for teams, how to create it for companies.
Nice.
feedback culture, how to actually give feedback that lands and does something. In combination, I believe with nonviolent communication and radical honesty.
Yeah.
I'm not certified in either of them, but they have informed where I'm coming from.
I love it.
Facilitation techniques for managers, how to facilitate meetings.
Yeah, that's a huge one as well. Like, there's loads of stuff that people can still reach out and
asking questions. Values. So what I find interesting there, great facilitators out there who help companies to define their values. But then how do you disseminate them? How do you get your entire multinational organization on board to really subscribe to these company values? So we would then come in and do the workshops for all their employees, for them to connect to the values, to themselves, to their teams.
Right. So there's a whole world of stuff that you can help organizations with, which is fantastic. So let's start thinking about and talking about what you're working on now, because I know from reading your newsletter you're working on a book.
Yes.
And tell us about the book and what's the premise of the book and where you're at with it at the moment.
The book will be called Unprofessionalism.
Okay.
Which is a provocation. It's a provocation born from the observation that the notion of professionalism has gone totally sideways. And what I observe is that everyone below the surface, everyone is winging it. Nobody actually has a clue what they're doing. Of course not you. Me neither. Everything is moving too fast to really have an overview. And I'm regularly shocked when I look behind the surface of how very big companies operate on a daily basis. They're also just winging it. And it costs so much energy to pretend as if we figured it out.
Yeah.
Because it means if we want to keep this professional facade, we're competent, we know what we're doing, we always wear makeup, we look great, we're in a good mood.
Yeah.
And all of this costs energy that we have to take from somewhere else. Hence, what are we observing? A burnout pandemic, loneliness, sadness, grief, unprocessed emotions, lots of conflict.
Yeah.
A small piece of feedback explodes because we don't have the capacity to actually connect to our humanness and the humanness of our coworkers to actually do something with this. But actually constructive and helpful and well-meant feedback. So I'm basically questioning this entire notion of professionalism and where it brought us, and want to plant a piece of hope and a wake-up call to what if we just leave aside the notion of we have to be so professional, we have to appear like something, and step into humanness, asking for help, admitting that we don't know, reaching out to people, wearing less makeup, being more ourselves.
Where does service proficiency come from as regards professionalism?
So for me, unprofessional, or what I'm not criticizing, is high quality and customer focus. So I'm not saying that we should start being mean to our customers or delivering bad quality. And I think even showing ourselves and being more human with our customers also help. Saying that we can help them if we cannot.
Sure.
Doesn't help. If we say, oh, I hear your problem, I would love to help you. At the moment, I don't know, but I'm finding a solution. Great.
Yeah. I find the whole professional thing is it is an interesting topic where it originated from. So when I was speaking to my next door neighbor, who's 81, think he might be listening to the podcast because there's a few things he's mentioned to me, but he still wears a shirt and tie. And he said that everyone way back in the 50s and 60s in Ireland, when they'd knock on your door, they'd be wearing a shirt and tie, even if they were like from the ESB, which is like the electrical supplier. And I was like, wow, that's kind of interesting. I said, so why are you still wearing it? Like, he's doing the garden in a shirt and tie, like, And he says, that's just the way I am. I like to look smart. He said, like, and his wife is always saying to him, Mary, who's absolutely amazing, and she's like, I'm always trying to get him to wear something more casual, but that's just the way he is. He just loves wearing a shirt and tie. And he was a teacher and he wore a shirt and tie all the time. And then I'm like, well, we've kind of lost that a little bit. And I don't know if it's a good or bad thing, but I think I'd love to get your perspectives on that presentation layer, so to speak. I remember, sorry to go on a deviation, folks, but years ago when I came home from Australia, I took a role at a consultancy. And, if anyone who knows me, I wear jeans and I wear Doc Marten boots, and, I'm kind of like, I guess, a creative. And I walked into the consultancy on the first day and they went, what are those? And I go, what? And they go, those. And they pointed down at my legs and I go, they're jeans. They go, you can't wear them in here. And I go, what? I said, what are those? And I go, they're boot runners. I said, you need to go down and buy some slacks. And I went, I'm not wearing slacks. I don't wear them. Like I said, it's not who I am. And instantly it was a tension and it was a conflict, and it didn't resolve. And I left that place as the poet John Bon Jovi would say, in a blaze of glory. Where does that layer of professionalism come from? Like, what are we trying to evoke by wearing the armor? Like, tell us what are we trying to convey by wearing those things?
So I think there's several layers. So professionalism initially was a social contract.
Yeah.
Where there were professions, like being a lawyer, a doctor, an engineer. It was extremely difficult and expensive to learn the skills of that profession. So in return, there were guilds who would protect the profession and make sure that they get the financial compensation and the status and all of that. And then as corporations, private companies grew very fast, they didn't have these skills to protect what they would need within themselves to show quality to the outside world and their brand. Right. So that's when the concept of corporate professionalism came in, which was not to protect society from the quacks or the imposters, but to basically protect the company's quality and profit, to make sure that everyone adhered to some standards that they defined.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the dress codes come in. So to see a banker in sneakers and sweatpants, or a consultant, would be really weird.
It's a conflict.
And then the problem is, I think, that I'm reading this book called Subliminal, that we do judge by the looks.
Yeah.
We do this automatically. And
which is awful.
Yes, and it is what it is, so we cannot change it. But if we...
Is that a human nature?
Yeah.
Is that like...
Yeah.
It's something that's baked into our psyche that we just...
Because it's a shortcut. It saves processing power. But then if a tattoo artist or a yoga teacher would come in a formal suit, we would judge them similarly, right? So it's also a process that we have learned and that we might be able to unlearn. The thing that I'm criticizing is that why would I wear a suit or shoes that hurt and hence make me less professional in terms of content output, because I cannot think if my feet hurt. Right? Yeah. If I cannot breathe because the tie is too narrow, right? Then I won't be the best consultant.
Yeah. I find it really interesting. Like, just, I sometimes find myself wearing a suit, which is just a form of, if I'm training for specific clients, I'll wear a suit if needed. And that's just more to show respect that I'm aware that this is a situation here where we're all invested in, and I've put my time and energy and my focus into sort of compromising in some ways.
And I think that's a beautiful example for it's not because of the professional label, but it's how we show respect.
Yeah, like as a respect-giving piece. Whereas most of the time, I think I'm not like that. Yeah. And like I don't want it to be about me. I'm trying to understand your thoughts on this and what we can take this back into our workplace. I think most people would probably choose to get to wear what they want, so they can feel more comfortable and more effective, because they can show up as they are and who they are.
Yeah, and I think the air quotes unprofessional way. So my provocative understanding would then be, okay, wear what you feel comfortable at work, and have the conversation if someone has needs, desires, or feels offended. If my coworker feels offended by me showing my tattoos, okay, that's who am I to judge if they feel offended that I want to take it seriously, and how can we find a solution for that? And I think this would be a much healthier approach, than forcing everyone into a dress code that doesn't make them feel as the best version of themselves. And I think it quickly goes into a masking. Hashtag radically honest. I received an email yesterday by one of PR agents for podcast placement, sending me a link to a LinkedIn profile. And I looked at the LinkedIn profile. It was so polished. It was so much makeup and so kind of the shiny. I didn't see any personality behind that profile. So I sent back an email. I'm like, I'm sorry. To be very honest, it just looks too polished. And that's not what I'm looking for in my podcast, where I want to have the authentic, the deep conversation with a human. Yeah.
That's, I know I might kind of lose listeners on this, but it seems to be a very American kind of thing, like the slacks and the shirt. And whenever in Australia in particular, I remember meeting a bunch of business keynote speakers, and they all seem to just follow a kind of a process. Like they're just like checkered shirt and slacks, and it just seems very formulaic and not very personal. Not everyone, obviously. Like, I'm not brandishing the entire, speaking community, but there seems to be a trend that just people fall into this kind of like very polished, very corporate, whitened teeth kind of scenario, and it just doesn't feel real,
Yeah, and I think, and that's something that's actually at the core of my book. I believe that it's born out of an imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
That I had so many instances that I thought, who am I? What kind of podcast host am I? I'm not professional enough. I'm not this enough. And I just realized that I plugged in the wrong microphone. So my audio maybe is shit.
No, it's actually pretty good.
I don't do much editing. So all of that, I would judge myself.
Yeah.
Because I don't fit the image. And I think the more we are doubting our own capabilities, capacities, labels, status, the more we try to hide it. Like, yeah, let's build this. Let's hire someone to polish it a bit.
Yeah.
And then where does it end? We end being imposters, pretending as if we are these perfect, polished people, but we're actually not.
I know. I remember, it's funny you actually call that out, because I remember way back in 2017 when I started, there was an episode I did with somebody online, and I wasn't happy with. I was really nervous. And I had questions way back then. I used to have set questions. And what I actually did was I said I was going to edit and re-ask my questions and drop them in, I was so nervous about how I was going to be presented. And then something flicked where I went, we don't do any editing really in this podcast, unless I'm saying something that's radically drastic. Then I'm like, actually, that's too much. I'm going to take it out. Most of the time, like you, it's published. There's an intro and there's an outro, and that's just the way it is. And it feels much better. That's the kind of world that I want to kind of emulate.
Yes, and don't we want to be followed and appreciated by those who like us as we are? Instead of those who fall in love with the image, with something that we're actually not and that we have to work hard for.
Yeah. I mean, it's a very deep way of looking at, how we present. And I guess that probably falls into unprofessionalism in some ways. Like, you want to attract the kind of opportunities that reflect your values. And I'm lucky enough at the moment that everyone that I've kind of been working with over the last year or two, and the people that I collaborate with, they're all pretty much my dream clients and stuff. So that's why I said at the start of the conversation, things are good. Like, I don't have any dickish clients, as I call them, like people who are expecting too much, but I would still always aim to over deliver, folks. If anyone's out there interested in some design training, you know where to come. But look, where are you at with the book anyway? Tell us, are you in the middle of the stages of the book? Sounds like.
I just deleted 20 pages.
Dun, dun, dun.
Mm-hmm. Because I realized that I was kind of hiding myself. It's so fun. Writing a book is such a therapeutical process, I have the impression. Getting on tangents, getting too intellectualized, and realizing the reader of the book doesn't read the book because they want to know the history of professionalism.
Yeah. Some people might want, there's definitely parts of it I'm interested in where it comes from, the origins of it, so we can challenge those pieces of it. Like, I'm sure there's colonial parts of it as well. Like, there's definitely aspects of professionalism in certain disciplines, power, trust, all of it comes into that. So I'm interested. I'm subscribed. So if people want to find out more about the journey that you're going on and when it's going to be ready, what's the best way for them to do that, Myriam, to stay up to date?
Subscribe to my newsletter. Another unprofessional thing, I don't segment my list anymore. Either you want to hear about my stuff or you don't. Since I don't have anything to sell to anyone, it's one email per week. I share a little blurb about my learnings about unprofessionalism, leadership, life, whatsoever. The one-page summary for the podcast. I might start a second podcast on unprofessionalism.
Yeah.
Because I want to hear from people who, through unprofessional methods, have had great success.
Nice.
So if you swim against the
stream.
The tide. Yeah. On workshops.work, there's I think on the upper right corner, there's a subscribe to the newsletter button.
I'm looking at it right here.
That's otherwise on LinkedIn. I'm an open book on LinkedIn.
Absolutely. Well, look, I'm going to put both links into the chat, or not the chat, the description if you're on Spotify, or the other way around if you're on YouTube, the description and the show notes if you're on Spotify and Apple. And I always wrap up every podcast guest on This Is HCD by thanking you for your time and your energy and your vulnerability being in this conversation, in this space of allowing me to go left, right and up and down and back and forth, and sometimes reversing over questions until I understand a little bit more. And yeah, you're no different, Myriam. Thank you so much for giving me your time and energy and letting me speak inside your brain today.
Thank you so much. Loved it, and love to be in conversation with you.
Absolutely. Well, do it again soon, okay?
Yes,
Thanks so
let
much.
me know when you come to Amsterdam.
Yeah, for sure.